Hello, everyone. This is Socks, our chief feline correspondent. I'm feeding it snacks so it chills out. See, it's got socks. They're really cool. How are you guys doing? Merry Christmas. Or, almost Merry Christmas. Here you go, Socks. I'm struggling. Here you go, buddy. Because the camera is too high, so I gotta hold Socks up like Simba, All right, I'll let you go. Here's some more snacks. Bear with me. Oh God, it's pressing things on the keyboard. All right, say goodbye, Socks. Just give me a second. I'm giving it more snacks over here. It's jumped in my lap already, so it knows. All right. So how are you guys doing? We have a lot to cover, and I hope you guys are well. The comments seem to approve of Socks, so that's very nice. So yeah, we have a lot to cover. I wanted to make this kind of like a informal sort of stream. I know we're still going to cover some miserable politics, but hold on. There you go. Here's more sausage. Don't eat the package, man. Come on. Okay, gently. Look at it go. It just wants to eat the whole package. All right, here you go. Yeah, so that's enough snacks for today. Behave. Yeah, so we're going to cover some miserable topics, of course, as usual. We have to do some politics. So, by the way, what's funny? I want to show you something. Take a look at this. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. You're never gonna believe this. You're never gonna believe this. And I mean, I didn't want to make such a big deal out of it. It's not really, it's cool. They finally gave me the blue check. Isn't that funny? I was going to make a joke out of it on Twitter. I wanted to post something like, I don't know, I got my blue check along with my job at MSNBC, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Then I was afraid some people might actually think I'm serious, so I better not post it. But yeah, anyway, I didn't end up posting it, just so in case there's like one person who can't understand sarcasm. But yeah. I'm looking at the comments. I'm glad you're all enjoying Socks. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's dive right into the politics. So this is more of I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. This was in the UK. Have you guys heard of this? So basically what happened, I'll explain what happened to you, okay? Socks is whining in the background for snacks. Hold on. We have to evacuate Socks. It's a rescue mission. All right. Socks is left. We can stream in peace. It has the hat hanging down like this, and she's like, just give me snacks. Okay, I'll explain this story to you. I'll tell you what happened. Basically, Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, he's been caught lying, and it's fairly serious. I'll get into it. Basically, the Mirror published a story that he broke the COVID lockdown rules by hosting a party at number 10 Downing Street. For those of you who don't know, that's basically the White House in London, right? It's the equivalent. And this is last year, so it's not this December, it's last December, and this party allegedly took place on December 18th. Now, it's very significant because 2 days before the party, on December 16th, they introduced new tiers, right? So basically every zone had a different tier. There was tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on. And, each tier has its own restrictions, different lockdown restrictions. And basically, the restrictions that London was in were tier 3, right? And they're very clear. No person may participate in a gathering in the tier 3 area, which consists of 2 or more people, and takes place in a private dwelling or in any indoor space. Of course, there are exceptions, but a Christmas party is not one of them, right? It's not, when you have a Christmas party or an office party, that's a social event. It's a social gathering. And that is certainly not one of the exceptions, even though it takes place at the workplace. It's not a work event. And so they were telling people, oh, it's very serious. You cannot have Christmas. Christmas is canceled. And so, you have to change your plans. Here's Boris Johnson, again, December 16th. Take a look at what he says.
Expensive decisions they may already have taken, but we do urge everyone to follow the guidance. It's there, and help to reduce to a minimum the number of meetings with other people that we have, because that's the way to stop the spread of the virus.
Right, so he's telling you need to reduce the number of meetings. You want to stop the spread of the virus. Be responsible. I don't know how many times he said the word responsible. You can go count it in that speech. But it's a lot. And so this story was broken by the Mirror at the end of November, right? Beginning December. And then all the other outlets started picking it up. The Guardian had a source, the BBC had a source, the Times had a source, the Financial Times had a source. They all had different sources telling them about this party, because apparently there were dozens of people there. Dozens of people in this social event. So this is from the Times, and they say the party last year is understood to have been organized via a WhatsApp group with staff asking to bring secret Santa presents. Some of those present also wore Christmas jumpers. I love how incriminating it is. Like, some of them even wore Christmas jumpers. Yeah, I mean, that's not the main point, but still. About 30 people are understood to have attended the event. Some staff working in other parts of the building are said to have joined in the festivities later in an impromptu way. Okay, and they brought alcohol and food, and they're kicking back drinks and everything. And so at first, the response from number 10 Downing Street is, what is this party? We didn't know anything about this party. And then you have other ministers, Dominic Raab, for example, who are saying, well, these are just anonymous sources. You can't believe that. If there's any evidence, then of course we can look at it. But, it's just anonymous sources. Well, if you want the evidence, here you go. So basically, this picture leaked of Boris Johnson at the party. And this person over here is wearing a Santa hat. And, they're basically playing a quiz. They're having a quiz game. And he joined in, I think, for about 10-15 minutes to be a quiz master or something. That's what they're saying in any case. So he was there. He didn't just turn a blind eye to it, but he was there. And the media asked Dominic Raab about another thing. There was another photo that leaked afterwards of a garden party. So here's the garden party. Right, and you can see Boris Johnson down there. So this is clearly not social distancing. This is not compatible with what they told the rest of the country. They're telling everyone you have to cancel Christmas. It's worse than that, right? When we're saying cancel Christmas, I'm going to show you some much worse things that people had to endure. But basically, I mean, this is not social distancing. This is not a lockdown. Something is off here, right? So take a look at what Dominic Raab said to The Guardian, I believe it was. Who was he talking to here?
Gathering, which number 10 said.
Yeah, BBC Breakfast. Take a look.
The gathering, which number 10 says was a work meeting, has been published in today's Guardian newspaper. We can speak now to the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab. Morning to you, Mr. Raab. I'm just going to start with that photograph that's in the Guardian today. So, wine and cheese in the Downing Street garden, that was last May, last year, when the rule stated we could only meet one other person outside. Just explain to us what was actually happening here.
Well, you're right to point to those rules around social mixing, but of course number 10, and including number 10, the garden there, is used for work meetings. They were throughout the day to which the picture relates, and as with many places of work, particularly if you can think of how hard they're working and under the various pressures of the week, they would sometimes have a drink, and that's what you can see there. But that was primarily after the work meetings of the day.
Well, that's a bit of an odd answer. He's like, yeah, but you know, they were working hard. You peasants wouldn't know anything about that. We work hard in the government, and, you know, people would just, they're enjoying a drink. They deserve it. Well, that does not look very, very good, does it? And so, as you can see, their responses from the government are laughable. Now they're saying that, well, you know, all the rules were followed, which, I mean, is so ambiguous. I don't even know what that means. How are you saying all the rules were followed when you were literally in a photograph, not social distancing, not in lockdown? You're having a Christmas party. How is that the rules were followed? Because that's what Boris Johnson is saying now. So at first they're denying the party, and now they're saying they're not overtly saying the party did happen. They're saying that all the rules were followed. Well, clearly no. And so people were beginning to ask the police to get involved. They're saying, these guys broke the rules. Here's the evidence. You need to go investigate. And you can guess what the police did. You don't need me to tell you the rest of the story because it's just details. You already know what the police did. Nothing. Right? And it gets even funnier because first of all, the police said, well, we don't investigate retroactive breaches of COVID rules, right? So this is a year old. This is 1 year ago. Why should we investigate this? It's boring. You know, we don't do it retrospectively. Yeah, but you know, you are fining people retrospectively. There were many people arrested during this period, and their court cases haven't disappeared because it happened a year ago. And that's the first official police response, right? And then what the police did is they referred themselves to the police watchdog. They're like, well, maybe we don't know how to handle this. Let the police watchdog take a look at it. And what do you think the police watchdog did? Nothing. Also nothing, of course, right? Of course they did absolutely nothing. And here's a tweet. Let me just read you this tweet. It says, the police watchdog and the police, the Met, won't investigate why officers allowed parties to happen in number 10 Downing Street because the complainant, Greenie Jenny Jones, so she's an MP. She's in the House of Lords, excuse me. But she's for the Green Party, right? Because the person complaining wasn't physically present or personally affected. Well, look, I'm pretty sure that if you had called the police and said, look, these people are not abiding by the COVID rules, the police are not going to ask you if you're related to them or if you're there. They would just go and investigate it. But because it's the Prime Minister, apparently, you know, they're coming up with these imaginary rules now. That, well, you're not personally affected and you weren't there, so you can't make a complaint. Wow. That's really amazing, right? And so, as I said, the police did nothing. The police watchdog is going to do nothing. And that's it. Right? And so I want to show you some really heart-wrenching tweets, some statements from people who were really adversely impacted by this lockdown last year. This is someone on Twitter they said that, quote, I said goodbye to mum after 79 years last year over Facebook Messenger and even had a picture in her last minutes before death while Boris Johnson carried on as normal during the number 10 party, #cheese and wine. No funeral, as we were too widespread and couldn't travel. So this person's mother died. They couldn't even be with their mother, and they couldn't even have a funeral. And meanwhile, Boris Johnson is playing Quizmaster. I mean, that's not right. That's not right, is it? You can't say that's right. That's not okay. And, you know, that's just one example. Really, I wish I saved them. There are countless examples that I've read like that. People who couldn't visit loved ones in the hospital, people who had family members die, they couldn't even see them during their last hours, they couldn't hold a funeral. I mean, you know, you're going to make those people suffer and abide by these rules. Fine, but why aren't these people in the government who are making the rules, why don't they have to abide by them? The problem here is not why there was a lockdown, or you know, why the rules were in place. The problem here is that there were rules in place, and the government have another set of rules for themselves. Clearly. And this is a multifaceted thing, because the rules last year, they weren't abiding by them, right? The police gives them special treatment, and then the police watchdog also gives them special treatment. And, you know, this might be one of the few rare instances where the media is actually holding them accountable. Although some people think it's a distraction. I've read people say that it's a distraction. This Christmas party story is a distraction from the Nationality and Borders bill, which they're trying to get through Parliament, which we'll get to in a second. Don't think I was going to leave that out. And so, you know, I've heard a wide array of stories, but there's clearly two sets of rules here, right? And this is Boris Johnson again. I broke no rules over Christmas parties. Yeah, well, sorry, mate, but the picture says otherwise, you know? The picture says otherwise. There are people who have been fined thousands of pounds because they were partying during Christmas at the same time as Boris Johnson. So if you're going to fine them, shouldn't you be fining him? Or let's put it this way. If you're not going to fine Boris Johnson, should you not let the other people off the hook? Why give special treatment, favoring one person and not the other? I think it should be done in a positive aspect. Not let's punish everyone, but let's help everyone. Let's treat everyone nicely and not in a bad way. And another telltale about this story is the. I want to show you this. So basically, in the UK, you guys in the US, you have Jen Psaki. She's the White House spokesperson, right? Well, in the UK, we have. Hold on, let me pull up this video for you. We have Allegra Staten, so she's basically the number 10 Downing Street spokesperson. And I think this was just after they created this role, they were having a mock press conference, like a trial press conference. And they were joking about, and someone recorded it. Take a look.
Twitter, but there was a Downing Street Christmas party on Friday night. Do you recognise those reports?
I went home. Hold on.
Would the Prime Minister condone having a Christmas?
What's the answer?
I don't know.
It wasn't a party, it was cheese and wine.
Just be clear, it's not.
Is cheese and wine all right?
No.
It was a business meeting.
I'm joking.
This is recorded. This fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced. One more, and then ask anybody have any questions today.
Well, there you go. She's basically admitted to it. And you know what happened? She broke down in tears and resigned. So this is December 8th.
Can you stop, please? Can you stop? I'm going to make a statement. You don't. The British people have made immense sacrifices in the ongoing battle against COVID-19.
I'm not going to play the whole video, but you get the picture. So, she's one of the reasons we know that the party actually happened. And again, this is not just about, they're having cheese and wine. It doesn't really matter what they were doing at the party. It's the point that you have two sets of rules, one for the elites, one for the government, and one for everyone else. Clear, very clear special treatment back then and now. And let me tell you one thing, just to be clear about this idea that, the police didn't know anything and they can't investigate retrospective COVID breaches. Do you really think the Prime Minister is at number 10 Downing Street and there's no police nearby? There's police literally outside the door, always. Anytime you watch a video, you walk past number 10 Downing Street, there's always police guarding the residence, which is also next door, by the way. There's always police, inside and outside. So they knew about it, and they also turned a blind eye. Very good of you. We have 172 people watching, only 130 likes. This is scandalous. I expect those numbers to go up. And I was going to say something. Yeah, I was going to just add that she's basically... I feel like she's a bit of a sacrificial lamb. She's the only person who's had to resign. That's funny, right? The spokesperson. I mean, what does she have to do with it? But anyway, that's what happened. She's the only person who's resigned over it. I don't think you'll actually be seeing anything with Boris. Anyway, so speaking of the Nationality and Borders bill, I wanted to get to that because that was something I mentioned just now. And it's very important. Just give me a second to set this up. And I was wondering what you guys are doing for Christmas. Are you having a party at number 10 Downing Street? Be honest. Be honest. Tell the truth. Very good. So... hold on, I'm going to take these off because they're very uncomfortable and we don't need them yet. There'll be a clip in a second, but we don't need them yet. Priti Patel, again, the Home Secretary, she's trying to shove this bill through Parliament called the Nationality and Borders Bill. So, she's really on a roll this year. I'd say the Conservative Party is really on a roll. They've got all sorts of draconian, authoritarian bills that have been rushing, making their way through Parliament, and of course Labour does nothing to stop them. They gladly step aside and let everything through. And one of these things is the Nationality and Borders bill. And the Conservative government, they market it as making asylum seeking more fair and, all kinds of lovely labels, but it's complete nonsense. Now, one of the most striking things in this bill is basically the United Kingdom making it harder for asylum seekers, refugees, to come to the UK. So before, if you enter the UK illegally, knowingly enter the UK unlawfully, you get a punishment of 6 months in prison, up to 6 months. And they've raised that from 6 months to 4 years to try and deter people from coming to the UK. Because as you know, the UK is such a benevolent nation. They take so many refugees, they just can't handle it anymore, right? No, I'm joking. The UK actually takes less refugees than perhaps most other countries. And the figures I'll show you in a second. This is from the UN Refugee Agency. I want to show you their opinion and legal opinion on this proposed law, right, which has just made its way through the House of Commons. So they're saying, what in a nutshell are the UK's proposed asylum changes? Well, they include restricting access to asylum by introducing a two-tiered approach in which only those who come to the UK through so-called safe and legal pathways will have access to the full benefits of the 1951 Refugee Convention. Most other refugees may be denied many of their rights under the convention, as well as the fundamental human right to family reunion. So, let me translate. It's a violation of international law, and the UK is, of course, a signatory of the 1951 Refugee Convention. And this bill, this Nationality and Borders bill, violates that convention. Next point. The proposed bill declares many applicants inadmissible and ineligible to claim asylum in the UK because of their connection to a country the UK deems safe, including countries where they have never been or where they were unable to apply for refugee status. Because the UK does not have any agreements to return refugees to other countries, the result is that their cases are placed on hold for around 6 months, significantly increasing backlogs and costs. Right? Another point is introducing the possibility of externalization, sending asylum seekers to other countries the Home Secretary designates as safe. So basically her idea is that instead of taking the refugees and processing them, no, we'll just ship them off to some island that is not in the UK. Yes, but what if that country, for this particular individual, is, a country where, they might be jailed for something else that has nothing to do with, the refugee application. There are so many possibilities, right? What the UK government deems safe is not necessarily safe for another, another person, someone who's seeking asylum. There's this myth, for example, that France takes less refugees than the UK. Like everyone is rushing to the UK. That's not true. France takes way more refugees than the UK, right? So does Germany. Again, UK is like at the bottom of the list. And the idea that, they should have stopped in the first country that was safe for them, there's no legal obligation to do that, and there's no logical obligation either, because, more people speak English more than French, just as one example. They might be able to integrate easier. They might have family there. There are a million other reasons why they might choose that country over another. There's a reason why some people, for example, from Syria applied for refugee status in Canada and not Germany, because they don't speak German. They might speak English or French. So there's a million reasons, and this is basically the UK trying to renege on its obligations as a signatory of the Refugee Convention. These are arbitrary, unilateral designations that the UK is trying to impose on its obligations as a signatory. And so, as I told you, there's introducing this new criminal offense, right, of people arriving in the UK without entry clearance, meaning illegally. The maximum sentence of arriving without clearance, entering unlawfully, or overstaying will be increased to 4 years. So from 6 months to 4 years. And those helping asylum seekers come to the UK would also be criminalized, even when this is not for gain, and regardless of whether or not the asylum seeker arrived irregularly. That means, because of course there's a problem with human trafficking. No one is denying that. There are people who make tons of money, trafficking people, exploiting people who are trying to escape war, trying to escape, economic misery. And so of course, that's an issue in itself. But that's not what the UK is doing here. They don't care if you're making money by helping someone. They don't care what your motives are if you're doing it for criminal gain. They'll just punish you. It's like, screw you for helping someone who's seeking asylum, even if you're completely innocent, you're not a criminal, you're just someone who's trying to help in any capacity. No, they want to criminalize you, right? And by the way, just as one more thing, which I'll show you in another article, Priti Patel, right, who's sponsoring this legislation and who's put it forward, Originally, she wanted to punish people at sea, sailors, boats that rescue drowning refugees. Like, this is really not the nicest of people, right? So if you're sailing in the channel and you see someone who's literally drowning, she wanted to jail you because you saved their life. I mean, it's incredible, right? I think she had to table an amendment rather to remove that recently because, it just... So... Another thing in this bill, which is absolutely scandalous, because again, it doesn't just deal with asylum seekers, it deals with British citizens. So this started with the war on terror, of course, like all great things. And the UK has been stripping people of citizenship, right? And then they say, well, it's just a terrorist. They went off, etc., to join some group. And they're terrorists. Who's going to defend a terrorist? Take their nationality. But now what Priti Patel is trying to do is she's trying to make it so that the government doesn't even have to tell you. They don't even have to tell you that they took your citizenship away. Look at this. So this is Clause 9 under the Nationality and Borders Bill, all right? Notice of decision to deprive a person of citizenship, right? And so the required notice to be given to a person to be deprived of citizenship does not apply if it appears to the Secretary of State, meaning Priti Patel, that the Secretary of State does not have the information needed to be able to give notice under that subsection. So, for example, they could say, well, we sent this letter to your last known address, and, you didn't give us your new address when you moved, so that's it. Or they could just simply say, we don't know where you live. That's why we couldn't tell you. And then they say here that they don't have to tell you they've taken your citizenship if it would for any other reason not be reasonably practicable to give notice under that subsection, or that it's in the interests of national security, or in the interests of the relationship between the UK and another country, Israel, the United States, or otherwise in the public interest. Whatever that means, right? Again, with these ambiguous, ridiculously loosely defined terms. It's for national security, right? It's like the one about Christ. I'm losing count. They've passed so many authoritarian, draconian bills this year. I'm losing count which one it was. It's all of them, right? Oh, national security, or in the economic interests of the UK, we can shut down a protest, and so on. And so this is the kind of crap that they've passed through the Commons, and now it's gone to the Lords. And I want to play you a short clip from Davis, right? So he's an MP. And I want you to see what he has to say about this idea that you can just strip people of citizenship without even telling them.
The right of citizenship in this country, in 1850, I think A.J.P. Taylor said it was the greatest speech in Parliament, was Palmerston's speech on the Don Pacifico affair, when he talked about the Civis Romanus Sum speech about the rights of a British citizen. And of course, in those days, that meant rights to be protected around the world, rather than what American citizens are now. It doesn't mean that anymore. But what it does mean are rights under our democracy, rights to access to a member of Parliament so they can stand up for you, rights to freedom under the law, rights to the judiciary, to the courts. I know they're unfashionable now, but rights to the operation of British justice. Something which is one of the most valued things in the world, and it's what we are defending in these contests in the Middle East and elsewhere. And it seems to me entirely inappropriate that we should make one of our strategies that of being able to take away citizenship from people who very often have lived here since they were 1 or 2 years old. Very often, if they were sent to the other country, which they've never been to and don't speak the language anymore, they will face summary execution. At least one case that applies. Where stands our belief against the capital punishment, which most of the people in this House espouse? So this is an uncivilized, legally disputable removal of the rights of people who may not be good people, but then put them in front of our courts and punish them. That's the way British justice should work, that's the way British democracy should work, and that's what we should do today.
Yeah, so he's trying to take a more reasonable approach. He's saying, instead of stripping people of citizenship, you could just take them to court and try them, couldn't you? If you want justice or some sort of accountability. And he says, British justice and so on. Yes, well, on paper, it looks very good. I can tell you, having covered numerous court cases this year, British justice is perhaps not what it used to be. So, the problem with this, let me explain something to you, is that they've used this so far on people like terrorists, people who've committed obscene crimes, who've gone off and joined ISIS and so on. And who the hell's going to protest that? Screw ISIS. The problem, though, is that this is where it starts. Today, they're stripping the nationality of terrorists. Tomorrow, who are they going to strip of nationality? Whose citizenship will they take away? If you give them such awesome, unfettered power. Who can stop them? No one can stop them. They don't even have to tell you. And you know what that means when they don't have to tell you, or if that you are not properly informed that your citizenship has been taken away. I mean, which in and of itself is is uncivilized, as Davis called it. But that means you lose your right of appeal. If the government hasn't even told you that they've taken away your citizenship, and you find out years later, you can't appeal that anymore, can you? At least it's going to be extremely difficult to do that, if anyone will even listen. And there's this article in the Guardian about Patel, right? And this was written by, well, it's just an Observer editorial, but they're basically talking about their view on Priti Patel's fake migrant crisis, right? Going back to the issue of asylum seekers. And they say that Patel, well, first of all, let me just read you a few bits of it from the beginning, right? So basically, in her 2-year tenure at the Home Office, she's announced a series of initiatives to put people off seeking asylum in the UK. Wave machines in the Channel, flying asylum seekers to inhospitable islands thousands of miles away to be processed, criminalising those who rescue people drowning at sea. All are recent measures proposed by the Home Secretary, regardless of their compatibility with international law and Britain's moral obligations. Patel gives the impression that there is an escalating crisis in terms of the numbers of people arriving in the UK and trying to illegitimately claim refuge. This is not true. There is absolutely a crisis for asylum seekers trying to reach British shores by making the treacherous channel crossing in small boats and dinghies. The British government should be doing all it can to clamp down on the people traffickers, making a fortune by charging desperate people to attempt the crossing. It's true. But the number of people coming to the UK to claim asylum fell by 4% last year and stands at less than half what it was in the early 2000s. Britain receives a fraction of the asylum applications of Germany and France, and fewer per resident than the EU average. Low-income countries host 9 out of 10 displaced people worldwide. That's absolutely true. I can tell you, just as one example, when the UK and the US invaded Iraq, where do you think most Iraqi refugees went? They went next door to Syria. They went, in the neighboring countries. Millions of them became refugees. It's not the US and the UK who started that war, who created this chaos, which is, still going on to this day, 20 years later. They didn't take the bulk of the refugees. Do you think the same is true of Afghanistan? Certainly not. Iran alone, right, because they're a neighboring country to Afghanistan, they have millions of Afghan refugees. It's at least 1 million, at the very least 1 million Afghan refugees. So it's not Europe, it's not the United States who start these wars, who create the refugees in the first place, who are taking them. So this is an imaginary crisis, and it's absolutely disgusting when you read the right-wing comments in the UK about, we're already unemployed, send the refugees back, like as if they're dying to come and steal your job. These people weren't trying to come to the UK in the first place until, we invaded them and screwed their country up. That's a fact. That's a fact. And so the other issue, which, I find absolutely disgusting is, they try to make a difference between, economic migrants and refugees, like as if having the economy destroyed by sanctions or centuries of colonialism is any better. What? Why do you think there are developing countries? Why do you think people try to go from the global south to the north? Because the global north, the West, in other words, is rich. And why is the West rich? Because they stole that shit. They spent centuries stealing and plundering resources and killing and colonizing. That's how they got rich. And so the people are going there either because of colonialism, because they've been put at a disadvantage. That's why you have developing countries, because they've been set back. And why have they been set back? Colonialism, imperialism, resources have been stolen. Even when you have sanctions on a country or war, you have brain drain as well. So, for example, architects, people. Again, I don't like this distinction between skilled labor and unskilled labor. It's all labor at the end of the day, right? But whether we're talking about people who are quote unquote skilled labor or unskilled labor, everyone is fleeing, right? You have people without diplomas, with diplomas. They're all fleeing to these richer countries, and who's benefiting from this workforce? Again, they benefit in another way, right? So there's nothing about this Nationality and Borders bill which protects the United Kingdom from illegal immigrants or whatever, as if that's not even a real crisis to begin with, or people who are pretending to be, asylum seekers. And the United Kingdom, I mean, as the UN put it, the United Kingdom can protect its borders and have a fair system that takes in asylum seekers, that complies with the Refugee Convention. At the same time, they're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to screw over refugees again, right, after displacing them, destroying their countries, by sending them off to facilities and creating a giant backlog and criminalizing them. I mean, I can tell you something, man. People are not dying to, leave their family behind and cross the channel in a dinghy. Really not. I mean, they're literally dying to do it, but in the sense of the phrase in English, they don't want to go do that. No one is crazy about going, in a tiny boat across the channel and potentially drowning just to get to the UK and leaving their family behind. I mean, like they act like, it's some kind of they're going to have a red carpet rolled out for them, and someone's going to kiss their ass when they get to the UK. It's unbelievable, right? So, once again, this is a very concerning bill. It's an authoritarian, it's a draconian bill, just like the overseas operations bill where they're legalizing war crimes, just like the police court sentencing and crimes bill where they're making protests illegal, giving extraordinary powers to the police. And just like the spy cops bill, right? It's literally a list now of just the worst imaginable bills that give the police the power to spy on you, to spy on activists, anyone, in the interests of the, in the interests of the UK's economy and in the interests of national security. Either one is fine. And giving UK troops immunity for war crimes and criminalizing asylum seekers that the UK has helped create in many ways, centuries of colonialism, helping the US destroy other countries now. And threatening to just strip people of citizenship without even telling them. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. And I understand when people say that it feels like the media or the government itself is distracting, is trying to take attention away from these bills with this Christmas party nonsense. I mean, I think all of them are important, right? The Christmas party one is, again, it's the same thing. It's just showing you that the UK is not a democracy. There are two sets of rules depending on your role in society, whether you're in the government, you're an elite, how big your wallet is, and whether you're a pleb, a peasant, a commoner, That's what it shows. And here's the same thing. I want to tell you one thing about Priti Patel, because she's the Home Secretary. She's authored a lot of these bills and championed them and trying to get them through Parliament. And she wants to stop people from coming to the UK. She was famously asked not too long ago whether her own parents would have been able to come to the UK under her immigration laws, because you have to keep in mind her parents are Indian, and I think they were living in Uganda for a while, so she's Indian Ugandan, right? So she herself is a child of immigrants who came to the UK, and now she's trying to make it harder for people to emigrate to the UK. I mean, it's, you know, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's this whole attitude of screw you, I got mine. I'm okay now, but you all can screw off. That's a very disgusting mentality to have. That's a very, very nasty mindset, honestly. So I think that concludes our UK chapter for tonight. I think we might get back on Assange maybe or something. I have a lot of segments planned. We'll get through them one by one. In the meantime, we have some super chats. It's very nice of you guys. We have one from Mehdi. There's no note, but thank you very much, Mehdi. I appreciate the lovely sticker. And we got one here from Vito0606. Says, it's funny but also disgusting that they have no concern about the loss of citizenships of the refugees whose countries that they invaded, but not the compradors from Hong Kong that they are willing to take. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's... Hong Kong is a whole other issue, but yeah, it is absolutely disgusting, the point that you raise, because a lot of people, they had to kind of trade in their citizenship. It doesn't apply to every country, but basically there's, you know, if you take the refugee status in some countries, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if my memory serves me too well, but you can't have the other passport, your old passport. For example, if it's a Syrian passport, you have to take the new one, which is a gray one. I believe it's the gray colored passport for refugees. And so, you know, you do kind of lose your citizenship in a way. You lose your country, certainly, as it's been ravaged by you know, decades, if not centuries, of colonialism, and if not by war right now. I mean, no shit. Of course you have people from Libya or people passing through Libya trying to get the hell away from their country. Why? Western corporations, you know, these multinationals sucking up their resources like parasites, and they've been doing that for centuries. Again, it's not something that just started like 20 years ago, right? This is not exclusive to the war on terror. You have other ways of plundering countries. And it's very disgusting, and I think it's one of the most dishonest, really, truly dishonest things when you can just look at people and be like, yeah, well, this one's just some economic migrant. No. Why are they leaving their country? Stop being a fucking smartass. And what country are they coming from? Was that country colonized? Where did its resources go? Why is it not a developed country, and why is it a developing country? There are answers to these questions that are very obvious, that have been very well studied, that are very apparent. And to act like that doesn't matter anymore, like as if colonialism disappeared yesterday. You know, we still have neo-colonialism. This thing, it's still a thing. Whether, you know, people, right-wingers want to admit that or not, or even people on the so-called left, it's still a thing. So this subjugation is still there, and people who purposely take things out of context and act like, oh, the UK is the victim, oh, all these people are coming to our shores. Man, you didn't have, you know, the British, we didn't have a fucking problem landing on other people's shores for centuries and taking their shit. Really, like killing them and taking their shit. I don't remember what the number is, but I think there are more countries in the world who celebrate independence from the UK than any other. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I just don't know the total, but it's in the dozens, right? So you want to come and whine about, oh, they're coming to our shores. Fuck off, seriously. Fuck right off. I don't mean you, Vito. I'm speaking just figuratively. Andre, thank you for the tip. It says, #happy holidays to all. Thank you for your grit, conscience, and journalism. Thank you. And Andre says, could you interview at the New Atlas and at Daniel Dumbrill on Southeast Asia and China? Peace. I'm not familiar with their work. I think I might recognize their handles, but I absolutely want to cover Southeast Asia and China more. So I will happily look into their work and see if I can bring them on sometime. I would really like that very much. Thank you for the recommendation, and I'm just saving that if you'll give me one moment. Thank you for the tip itself, Andre. I really appreciate that. Just before I move on to the next segments, I just want to read these out in case anyone has sent anything. I don't want to miss them. So we have a new, well, it's time to play a crab dance. We have a new patron, and this is Andre. It's you as well. Oh, well, that's very nice. So Andre sent a tip and joined also on Patreon. I'm just going to play this crab dance for you guys. I hope that it's going to work when I try it. Give me a second. We were not prepared. We were not prepared. We are prepared now. So again, thank you, Andre, for supporting the program. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
And Corn was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Lovely. Again, thank you, Andre, for supporting the show. I haven't plugged the Patreon in quite a while. If you guys remember, I had to have my wisdom teeth taken out, which is probably not a good thing to admit in case they assassinate me and have to change my dental records. But nevertheless, it's out there. No. But yeah, I haven't been, I wasn't able to go live because I look like a chipmunk. You know, a lot of you have been there, I know. And yeah, so again, thank you for supporting the show. I don't know how many patrons we're at right now, but it's an overwhelming amount. I mean, obviously, in about 2 weeks, it'll be 2 years, technically, because it'll be 2022. But, I mean, technically speaking, 2020 was just last year. So in 1 year, I mean, we've come, exceptionally far. And I'm very grateful to you guys. I'm very grateful to God. And I think it's completely thanks to you guys. I wouldn't be able to do it without your support. Even not financial support, but all kinds of support. Whether you're commenting, you're helping the algorithm, you're engaging, you're sharing the videos, and of course those of you who support the channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you want to support the show, I'll leave all the links below. So let's go on to the next segment that I wanted to do with you guys. This is a very interesting one. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's something that came out just today. Let me just pull it up for you. There we go. Right. So Candace Owens interviewed Donald Trump, and she asked him a very interesting question. She asked him why he didn't pardon Julian Assange or Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower. Let's take a look at the clip.
I want to ask you, in terms of talking about this corruption, by the way, name that comes to mind in the news recently is Julian Assange. You know, he was exposing this corruption early on. He's had his life ruined because of it. It's a really sad story. Edward Snowden, I mean, think about that bravery. For me, I was quite young when that was going on. But I mean, the idea of saying, hey, whistleblowing, actually, we've got some corruption going on. They're not being honest with the American people. You could have had a chance to pardon these individuals. Why decide not to in that moment?
You have two sides of it. In one case, you have like sort of a spy deal going on, and in another case, you have somebody that's exposing real corruption.
Right.
I feel a little bit, I won't say which one, but I feel a little bit more strongly about one than the other.
Right.
And you probably understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have done it, but I will say you have people on both sides of that issue, good people on both sides, and you have some bad people on one side. But I decided to let that one ride, let the courts work it out.
I want to ask you, in terms of talking about this corruption, by the way, name that comes to mind in the news recently is Julian Assange.
Okay, so some comments, just some thoughts. First of all, it's a very short clip. I must admit I have not seen the rest of it. I don't know if it's behind a paywall or something, but it's part of a larger interview that she did with Trump. And just to address this short clip. Now, Edward Snowden, he tweeted the clip. That's how I saw it. And he said body language. That's all he put. And I must assume that he's referring to Trump's body language, especially when he crosses the arms like that. right? Now, I'm no expert on reading body language, but my understanding is that when someone folds their arms like that, they're being defensive, or they're trying to hide something, or not necessarily lying, but they're just defensive. They're uncomfortable with the question, maybe. I don't know what it is exactly. Someone who's more well-versed than me, please enlighten me. But he tweeted that in any case, which I found interesting. And just to analyze Trump's answer, if not his body language, well, he says that there are good people on both sides. I don't know what that means. I don't really see any good people on the side of, that's trying to persecute both Snowden and Assange. Maybe some misguided ones at best, and that's really giving the benefit of the doubt. But these issues are very clear. Snowden is exposing government wrongdoing, gross misconduct. The NSA spying. I love it when people reduce it to like spying on Americans. Well, no, the main target is not just Americans. It's it's pretty much everyone, which is the problem here, including. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole list of targets, but even foreign leaders. And so Edward Snowden exposed that to great personal detriment. He's living in Russia now. They actually forced him to go to Russia in a sense because he was taking a connecting flight to Latin America. And they canceled his passport while he was in Russia, so they can say, look, you see, he's a Putin puppet and he's working with the Kremlin. All kinds of smears till the end of time. So that was a tactical move on their part. They canceled it on purpose while he was in Russia, and he's stuck there now. And again, I don't know. I don't want to say the word stuck necessarily. Russia's not exactly the worst place on earth. It's a pretty nice place, and he's gotten married now, and I think he has a child. So that's good for him. I think he has citizenship even now. And so my point though is he probably misses home. So he's not been able to go back home since 2013. He'll probably never be able to go back home, which of course is a huge personal loss. And Julian Assange. Well, I don't need to go into Julian Assange. I've said more than enough about Assange, but he's exposed lots and lots of war crimes, crimes against humanity committed by the U.S., torture, you name it. And so these individuals, they've committed very valorous, heroic acts to, at extreme personal cost, right? One is in jail, the other one is in exile, effectively in exile. And so I don't really get what Trump is saying when there are good people on both sides of the issue. It's a very clear clear issue. And so the other thing is that, well, you're the guy who unsealed the indictment against Assange, right? So when people say pardon Assange, well, it's not like he's been convicted of a crime. He's been charged with the Espionage Act. A publisher, a foreign journalist who doesn't work in the U.S., isn't from the U.S., didn't publish anything in the U.S., being charged as a spy. So that in of itself tells you everything, tells you that it's political. And so Trump is the one who unsealed the indictment. People say, oh, well, Assange was working with Trump, he helped him win the election. Really? That doesn't look like it to me. Why is Trump, trying to send him to jail then for, up to 175 years? Again, the Trump administration unsealed the indictment against Assange. That is a fact. It's a fact. And so when Trump just sits there and he's like, well, I don't even know who he's referring to. He says that he feels more strongly about one than the other. I honestly don't know who he's referring to. I think it's Snowden, but I'm just speculating at this point. I'm just speculating. But in any case, we shouldn't forget that it's Trump who had the indictment against Assange started, right? And of course, it's not just him, right? There's the whole intelligence agencies who are putting enormous pressure on them to do this. There's his entourage, Mike Pompeo, etc., etc. It's not him alone. It's a whole system of people. And so I don't know what this body language means. Maybe you guys can enlighten me. I've read the comments. Again, these are just the comments, public comments that people have put underneath. Some people are saying that maybe it means Trump was saying that his hands were tied. I mean, I don't know if that's what it necessarily means. We're just speculating, aren't we? But I don't know. I feel like Trump he knows what's right and wrong. He's not stupid. And he did the wrong thing. prosecuting Assange. There's no, there are good people on both sides. No, that's a very clear attack on the press, because it's not just about Assange ultimately, is it? So he should have pardoned both of them. Instead, do you know who Trump pardoned? I mean, he pardoned, I think, about over 200 people, right? The president can give out these presidential pardons. And he gave out some, what was his name again? I think his name was Shalom Weiss or something. Yeah, he's some guy who was, I found out about this guy because I was looking into extraditions, right? He's been given the longest sentence by a U.S. federal court. They gave him 845 years. Yeah, 845 years. I mean, you expect the U.S. federal courts to screw you, but that is just monumental. No one has ever been given that. So he was convicted for fraud, and that's one of the people that Trump pardoned. Now, I'm not saying he should have gone to jail for 845 years, but my point is, it's Trump. It's Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if you could buy a pardon with Trump. It's Trump. What am I supposed to say? The guy is for sale, so if you pay the right amount of money, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's getting a pardon, it can be arranged. So he doesn't exactly have a conscience that pricks him. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here and interpret his body language. I just wanted to show you this clip because I found it a bit interesting. And, I just never understood people who expected Trump to pardon Assange. Yeah, it's something nice to hope for, but, he's the guy who unsealed the indictment. And again, Assange didn't really commit a crime. He wasn't convicted of one at the very at the very least he's not committed a crime, but certainly he hasn't been convicted either. So dropping the case is what you mean, really. You can't pardon someone unless they've been convicted. Assange has not been convicted, and even if he were, we all know it would be because the jury is made up of CIA spooks and so on. But yeah, I just want to show you this short clip. Make of it what you will. So we have, just give me a second, we have some more tips over here. One is on Rockfin. This is from Teresa. She says, he shall be released. I assume you're talking about Assange. I hope so. And Snowden, I hope so too. But in Snowden's case, returning from exile, I guess. So I assume you're referring to Assange. I hope so. I can tell you one thing. I can give you a small update on what happened today. So let me pull this up for you because I have an update on the Assange case, in case you're interested. No pun intended. Okay. Julian Assange, okay, well, I'm going to start at the beginning because I always feel like there's people tuning in who don't know the story, but, we have to start from the beginning. As you guys know, Julian Assange, the High Court said that the extradition to the U.S. can go ahead. They said that the January decision by Judge Bretzer to block the extradition, they've overturned it, and they've okayed the extradition to the U.S. Now, here's an update on what's happened, okay? So, this morning, this is from Stella Morris, by the way. So, Stella Morris is Assange's partner, okay? And she wrote that this morning, at 11:05, Julian Assange filed an application for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court, the High Court's ruling that he can be extradited to the U.S. on 3 grounds, okay? So, the High Court's ruling in USA versus Assange raises 3 points of law of general public importance that have an impact on the procedural and human rights safeguards of a wide range of other types of cases. Okay, so this paragraph over here is about Assange's health. As you guys know, the High Court accepted the medical evidence and it upheld that part of the decision from January. Okay, so on December 10th, the High Court upheld the Magistrates Court's assessment based on the evidence before her that there was a real risk that should Julian Assange be extradited to the U.S., he would be subjected to near total isolation, including under the regimes of Special Administrative Measures, SAMs, and or sent to ADX, meaning ADX Florence in Colorado, which is a federal super maximum prison. And that such isolation would cause his mental condition to deteriorate to such a degree that there was a high risk of suicide. These findings led the lower court to block the extradition under Section 91 of the Extradition Act, which bans oppressive extraditions. However, the High Court overturned the lower court's decision to block the extradition based solely on the fact that after the US lost the extradition case on January 4th, the State Department sent a letter to the UK Foreign Office containing conditional assurances in relation to Assange's placement under SAMS and ADX. The assurances letter explicitly states in points 1 and 4 that the US retains the power to impose SAMS on Assange and designate Assange to ADX, should he do or say anything that would cause the US government to determine in its subjective assessment that Assange should be placed under SAMS. So basically, this is the point that they're not really assurances, because if you read them, in the assurance itself, the US is saying, well, we won't put him in SAMS, but we reserve the right to put him in SAMS if he does something we don't like. Okay, so that's not really an assurance then, is it? If you can still put him in SAMS. And so these conditional assurances alone were considered sufficient by the High Court to overturn the lower court's decision. Now, under English law, in order for the application to have a chance to be considered by the Supreme Court, this is a very important point, right? So if you want your case to be heard by the Supreme Court, first, the same High Court judges who ordered Julian Assange's extradition must certify that at least one of the Supreme Court appeal grounds is a point of law of general public importance. So when I interviewed David Mendoza, who again was extradited to the US from Spain, he told me the same thing, right? If the Supreme Court hears your case, this is generally the same in most jurisdictions, but certainly true under UK law, is that your case must be relevant. Certainly, at least one of the grounds of appeal in your case must be relevant to the public, right? And a matter of extradition is certainly relevant because it affects everyone. Anyone can be extradited under the Extradition Act, right? Any British citizen, and not even just a British citizen, anyone in UK jurisdiction can be extradited under this law. And so it is certainly a matter for the public. And there are 3 grounds of appeal. I'm assuming at least one of them is to do with that. But again, that's just speculation. But certainly, I think there's a fair chance they hear his case. I hope so. Gary McKinnon was not so fortunate. I recall that he exhausted all his legal options. He was also facing extradition to the US from the UK, and he perpetrated the biggest computer hack of all time. He went into NASA, the Air Force, the Navy. I mean, it's incredible, honestly. But yeah, they tried to extradite him. Also a legal battle for 10 years, and it's actually Theresa May who withdrew who blocked the extradition, not the Supreme Court. And so I'll just read you the last paragraph here from Stella. It says that Julian Assange's application for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court is therefore currently under consideration by the High Court judges. It is not known how long it will take for the decision to come down, but it is not expected before the 3rd week of January. Okay, so here we have the filing. And of course, I'll go through that in a separate video with you because this is a very long and extensive, detailed video. But nevertheless, what I just read to you underlines the overall grounds of appeal and of course how the appeal would work. Now, the High Court judges were talking about Holroyd and Burnett, right? So just for context, which is very interesting, I don't know if this has happened before, but Holroyd, so Timothy Holroyd, he's one of the High Court judges, right? And there are 2 of them, and he was actually involved in the Assange case previously in July, because in July there was a sort of a pre-appellate hearing where they decided what grounds the U.S. could appeal on, because the U.S. wanted to appeal on 5 grounds, right? 3 of those grounds were related to the medical evidence, and 2 of them relating to the assurances, the diplomatic assurances. And he decided in the United States' favor. He said, okay, you can appeal on all 5, even though it was previously not allowed. So it was allowed on 3 out of 5, but not all 5. And he gave the okay. He said, you can appeal on all 5. Now, ultimately, 3 out of those 5 grounds were thrown out. Right? I hope I'm not confusing you with the numbers. My point is that one of these judges at the High Court ruled in the U.S. favor twice now. And the other judge, so we're talking about Burnett, I believe he was involved in the Lori Love case, and as you know, he was again another British national who faced extradition to the U.S. His extradition was ultimately blocked, and Burnett was involved in that. And so, it could go either way. Now, again, I'm just speculating, but I do think there's a fair chance the High Court listen to or take Assange's case. They hear his case because, extradition is, this obviously relates to it is a matter for the general public, and so it is absolutely important, right? It is definitely in the general interest of the public. So we'll see what happens. But as Stella said, don't expect anything at least until the third week of January. So that's let's say another month at least, at the very least. And there you go, just a brief case update on Assange. Just give me a second. I'm getting our next segment up. We have a tip over here. Thank you very much from Anthony. Anthony Ryder. I'm waiting for it to load. I hope that it loads. There we go. Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich. So I'm looking up Mark Rich. Give me a second. Yes. Okay, so he's also convicted of fraud, was it? Yeah, there's a bunch of things here, fraud, racketeering, and so on. And so Bill Clinton pardoned him. Yeah, again, when I was talking about Trump being bought, it's not exclusive to Trump. I'm pretty sure that works with all presidencies, surely. So yeah, I'm not surprised at that. Although I'm not too familiar with Mark Rich's case, but just reading the brief overview, the U.S. presidents are not too interested in press freedoms when it comes to pardons, just from what I can gather. So yeah. But thank you, Anthony, for the tip. I appreciate everyone who's donating to the show, everyone who's supporting the show. Again, I didn't actually properly plug the show, so I'll do that now, and hope that everything... How do I do this again? There we go. I got the screen. Bingo! So if you want to send a donation on Venmo or CashApp or PayPal, thank you very much. Thank you for supporting independent media. You can attach a note and I'll read it, or a question and I'll answer it as you wish. No worries. And we also have people who donate monthly on Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon, because you can do as little or as much as you'd like. There's no limit. Some people donate $2 a month. Some people donate 50. I don't know. It depends. It's vastly different, but nevertheless, I'm grateful for everyone who's helping out, supporting independent media. Thank you so much. I'll just put the thing up on the screen as we get the next segment ready. There we go. And all the links are in the chat in the description, so thank you so much for that. Just give me one moment. I'm getting the next one ready. All right, guys, let's move on to our next part of the show, the next round of malarkey. Right. Okay. So the Iran nuclear deal, they've had these talks that are resumed in Vienna, and they've just finished the 7th round of talks. They'll have the 8th round beginning on December 27th. And I mean, I've covered these talks extensively, right? I've interviewed the Russian ambassador. He's leading the Russian delegation in these talks. I've interviewed the Iranian chief negotiator right now, and if in case you guys haven't watched that, it's on the channel. Definitely go watch it. And so I just want to talk about how the media cover these talks, because it's really one of the most atrocious, dishonest fields in journalism, which is really saying something, right? Basically, let me break down how the media reports on the nuclear talks. You have a handful of reporters in Vienna, where the IAEA is based and where the talks are happening. So the IAEA is the UN's nuclear watchdog. And you have about 5 reporters who continuously write the same crap over and over, which is basically accuse Iran of violating the nuclear deal, or paint Iran as being non-cooperative, or, hard to deal with, dragging its feet. And then what they'll do is they'll go print that in other outlets. So, for example, Reuters will write an article, and then CNN, NBC, they'll copy and paste the article. They'll have some sort of arrangement, right? So then you have about 5 people who are writing this verbal diarrhea that gets, copied and pasted and repeated in all of Western mainstream media, right? So you end up with things like this, where they say that in 2018, then U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the deal, calling it too soft on Iran, and reimposed harsh U.S. sanctions, spurring Tehran to breach nuclear limits in the pact. So again, this is a very dishonest way of framing what's happening, because when Donald Trump reimposed sanctions, Iran waited an entire year after he quit the deal. So from May 2018 to May 2019, they were still following the nuclear deal. And then they started raising the level of uranium enrichment. So in the JCPOA, it's supposed to be 3.67%. That's the limit. And then they raised it past 3.67%. And then they increased the number of centrifuges, which, they have cascades. These centrifuges enrich the uranium, and they increased those numbers. And so that's not in violation of the deal. That's part of the deal. Because in the JCPOA, it talks about how to solve problems, right? It's called the dispute resolution mechanism. And so I want to read you what it says in here about solving problems, okay? Take a look at this. So this is Article 26, okay? They say here that Iran, the U.S. administration, acting consistent with the respective roles of the President and the Congress, will refrain from imposing new nuclear-related sanctions. Iran has stated that it will treat such a reintroduction or reimposition of the sanctions specified in Annex 2, or such an imposition of new nuclear-related sanctions, as grounds to cease performing its commitments under this JCPOA in whole or in part. So it's very clear. It says if you, the United States, put sanctions on Iran, Iran is going to treat that as grounds to stop implementing its part of the deal. And then if you go to Article 36, it says if Iran believed that any or all of the E3, EU plus 3, so that means, again, the UK, France, Germany, the US, Russia, China, EU. So if Iran believed that any or all of these parties were not meeting their commitments under this JCPOA, Iran could refer the issue to the Joint Commission for Resolution. And then it goes up, basically, the chain of command. It goes up to the UN and so on and so on. And then at the end of Article 36, what does it say? It says that if If the issue still has not been resolved to the satisfaction of the complaining participant, and if the complaining participant deems the issue to constitute significant non-performance, then that participant could treat the unresolved issue as grounds to cease performing its commitments under this JCPOA in whole or in part, and or notify the UN Security Council that it believes the issue constitutes significant non-performance. So let me translate that. That means if Iran, in this case, sees the United States is not following the deal, then Iran is not going to follow its end of the deal. That's how you solve the problems. It's listed right here under dispute resolution mechanism. Okay? So when Iran is enriching uranium past 3.67%, Iran is increasing its number of centrifuges. That's not breaching the pact. That's what they're allowed to do in the pact. And so that's not how the mainstream media report it, right? So you'll go and you'll look up articles from pick any outlet, and they will all say Iran is breaching its limits. Oh, Iran is not complying with the deal. Complete nonsense. It's complete, absolute rubbish. So again, this is very important because, I mean, you don't have anyone reporting honestly on this. It's absolutely disgusting, right? I don't know if these people writing the articles are so ignorant that they haven't read the JCPOA, but they're lying. They're completely lying when they try to paint Iran as breaching, violating the deal. And in some instances, they'll do it subtly. They'll say things like, you know, the one I just read you in Reuters, where it's breaching the limits in the pact. And then others, they'll just outright say Iran is breaching the pact or it's violating the pact. That's wrong. Now, there's another thing inside the JCPOA, which is about sanctions, right? So this is Article 29. It says the EU and its member states and the United States, consistent with their respective laws, will refrain from any policy specifically intended to directly and adversely affect the normalization of trade and economic relations with Iran, inconsistent with their commitments not to undermine the successful implementation of this JCPOA. Let me translate that again. That means that the EU member states, the United States, they cannot put sanctions on Iran, and they cannot do things that prevent Iran from trading with other countries and from, they can't do things that don't facilitate or normalize trade with Iran. So when Donald Trump leaves the nuclear deal in 2018, and he doesn't just leave it, he puts sanctions on Iran. He targets the oil sector, the banking sector. He does all this stuff to cripple Iran's economy. That's violating the deal, right? But they don't tell you that in the media. They just say, oh, you know, the U.S. left the deal. No, the U.S. did more than that. They put sanctions, and that is a violation of the deal. But they never talk about that being a violation of the deal. Like, the United States is not even in the fucking agreement. The United States is not even in the goddamn agreement. And Iran is following the deal. And they want to talk about Iran as the one that's, you know, not cooperating and being, bullish, and it's just unbelievable, right? So that's the coverage of nuclear talks. That's what we're dealing with here. So, you know, Donald Trump quits the deal. He puts sanctions. Biden continues that. Biden's been president for almost 1 year. He still hasn't gone back in the JCPOA. He's nitpicking now. He's saying, well, you know, we'll remove the nuclear-related sanctions, but we're not going to remove the other ones. This is a very dirty game, because what the U.S. has been doing is putting sanctions on Iran and saying, well, this is because of your human rights violations, and this is because of your sponsoring terrorism activities, right? Your malign activities in the region, meaning Iran is supporting the Palestinian resistance, or the PMU, or Syria, etc. And so they say, well, because this is not a nuclear-related sanction, it doesn't have nuclear in the title, we're not lifting that. Yeah, but that's still a violation of Article 29. You have to facilitate trade with Iran. You can't do things and place sanctions on Iran that make it difficult for the rest of the world to interact with Iran and trade with it. You can't do that. That violates Article 29. It doesn't matter if you call it nuclear related or non-nuclear related or, you know, candy related, whatever you want to call it. That's irrelevant. But that's one of the games they're playing. And so once again, you see how there's no difference between Biden or Trump. And, you know, the Biden administration is basically looking at all the things that Trump has done and just running with them. They're not undoing them. They're just taking them. It's like, yeah, okay, let's continue the persecution of Assange. We're going to keep the indictment going. We're going to take this as far as it needs to go to extradite him. We're not going to get back in the Iran nuclear jail. We're going to drag our feet. We're going to paint Iran as being non-compliant. We're going to keep the sanctions in place. We're going to keep Trump's sanctions against Syria, and so on and so on and so on, right? So, you know, as I told you, as I predicted, no difference whatsoever. And yeah, that's the coverage, the nuclear talks coverage. It is so dishonest. I really hate it. And, you know, I cover news for a living, so I see a lot of crap. But that is really something monumental. It's really disgusting. I'm not kidding. It's literally a handful of reporters, and it gets copied and pasted everywhere. And they just write this pro-Western BS that is, you know, just rife with propaganda. It's so horrible. You need only look at the deal, at the text, and you can see clearly who's following it and who isn't. And it just, again, it speaks to this kind of arrogance. You know, remember, all the other parties in these nuclear talks have nuclear weapons, except Germany, right? So China, Russia, France, the UK, the US. Well, the US is in indirect talks. Remember, they left the deal. They all have nuclear weapons, right? And they're trying to basically lecture Iran about its nuclear program, which is, again, a civilian nuclear program. It doesn't have a weapons program. It just doesn't. Right, I'm not going to sit here and go through the whole thing. It just doesn't have one. The IAEA is monitoring everything that's happening in Iran. It's been doing that for years. And another issue which they were trying to you know, stir up a bunch of trouble in the media was the facility at Karaj. Basically, I mean, this is a hilarious story, right? The Israelis sabotaged a nuclear facility in Iran at Karaj, and they damaged the cameras, right? And you had the Western press saying that Iran is refusing to replace the cameras, and they're doing some funny business, like they won't let the IAEA replace the cameras, and you know, no mention of Israel blowing up the goddamn facility. I mean, you know, they act like Iran purposely, you know, they got some engineers on a ladder to dismantle the camera. No, it was sabotage. The facility was attacked, and it was attacked by Israel, right? But they don't tell you about that. They just say Iran is refusing to cooperate with the IAEA. They're hiding something in Karaj. And so Iran basically, to shut them up, this is what they did in the last few days, right? 15th of December, they allowed the IAEA to come in and replace the cameras. Iran was only trying to check what happened. They were saying, we'll gladly let the IAEA come in and replace the cameras, but we want to finish our investigation first. We want to know how the facility was sabotaged, what happened, right? I think any country in the world would do that if it had a nuclear facility sabotaged. And so, of course, they're using that in the media to again, do this whole boogeyman image, like, oh, look, Iran, they're doing something secret. They're building a bomb. Complete rubbish. So this is what we're dealing with. Really, just vile coverage in the Western press. It's so horrendous, so dishonest. One of the worst fields in journalism, easily. So anyway, I switched to the wrong window. Now you see me, I think. So there we go. We got a donation here on Venmo. This is from Charlie. And Charlie says, I'm a college student who wants to one day become an independent journalist like yourself. Do you think that majoring in journalism is worth it at my college? It is essentially or is it essentially a pipeline to mainstream media? Well, first of all, thank you for the donation. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a pipeline, but yeah, usually a lot of people who work in mainstream media, they did something in I don't know, public relations or communications or journalism, and so they get very angry when they see independent journalists because they don't get it, right? They're used to this liberal elite bullshit where it's like, well, you know, it's a tight-knit club, and you know, we went to journalism school, and how dare you? You shouldn't have a platform. It breaks their brains. They just can't grasp it. I don't know if you're in the... Are you in the U.S.? I'm assuming you're in the U.S. The determining factor here should be will it break the bank? Because if you're going to go into debt for it, then no, I wouldn't do it. But you can do both. You don't have to you don't have to major in journalism to do independent journalism. Certainly not. You can do both at the same time. It wouldn't hurt. But don't do it if it's going to put you in debt. But again, I don't want to dissuade people from going to college. It might end up being an amazing experience. I can't say definitively. I don't know your situation. I'm just saying this in the light of the student debt crisis, which we were talking about the other day. You end up. What is the average amount? $92,000 per person. I think it's $145,000 per household. The median debt. I mean, it's astronomical. Me personally, what I would do in that situation, I would not go. But I'm not specifically telling you not to do that. Again, it depends how much money you have. And again, the most important thing here is not the degree, it's that you can do it without the degree. You don't need it. But I don't know, you might end up meeting some amazing people. You might, I can't predict, but what would happen. But you don't have to have it to go into independent journalism. I'm going to say that. I hope that's a satisfactory answer. Marvin in the comments says, we need Bibi to do one of his cardboard signs showing a nuke bomb scaring people. Yeah. So that was when Netanyahu went to the UN. he literally showed up to the UN with a cardboard drawing of a bomb. Like, you know those cartoons where they make this round cannonball with a fuse? That's what he had. Let me show it to you. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, honestly. Look at this. Can you guys see that? So that's Netanyahu. He went to the UN with this ridiculous cartoon bomb, and he's talking about Iran. And he said, "Look, they're almost at 90%." No, they weren't. They certainly weren't. I don't know what year this was. This is at least 3-4 years. How long ago is this? But they just got to. Yeah, look, it's 2012. So it's in the last decade. Iran wasn't at 90%. That's nonsense. That's not how it works. You can't just get to 90% enriched uranium and say, oh, look, I have a nuclear bomb. It doesn't work that way. You have so many things, testing and research that need to be done that you cannot do them without other countries finding out. It's impossible today, at least. There's so many ways to detect this kind of stuff. Especially Iran has so many IAEA cameras and inspectors. Like, you have to understand something about how this deal with Iran works. They have they don't just have the JCPOA. They have the additional protocol, the safeguards agreement. Iran has more nuclear inspectors fanning through its facilities, and literally it has cameras in the facilities, 24/7 cameras. Iran is the last place on earth where they'd be building a nuclear bomb because it's under surveillance 24/7. It's just impossible, right? It's impossible. So again, just rubbish from Netanyahu and anyone else in the media. It's really embarrassing. So anyway, I'm just going to go through your comments. I did all the segments I wanted to do, and it's Christmas, technically, so it's time to chill. My brain can't really handle it. I haven't had a holiday in like 2 years or something. I don't remember. So I'm going to need to disconnect for a while. But yeah. Marvin says, Iran has been so cooperative with the agreement, even when the U.S. pulled out from the nuclear deal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't have to like it. The U.S. certainly doesn't like it that Iran has, raised the uranium enrichment and so on. But Iran is only doing it for leverage. Iran doesn't actually want a bomb. It couldn't build one. I mean, don't get me wrong. Iran has the technical capability to build one. Sure, they're smart enough. If they wanted one, they would have already done it. But they're under so much surveillance that when you hear this claim that, they're building one, it's just nonsense because there's no proof for that. There's just no proof. And the IAEA has always said that Iran is following the deal. So end of story. And, they've been tasked with carrying out the verification. That's it. They said Iran was following it. There's nothing else to say. The only other thing that you can, split hairs about is perhaps the additional protocol. basically they started this black box agreement in February. So Iran would continue recording in the cameras, but they wouldn't give the footage to the IAEA unless there was some kind of compromise reached, you know, in terms of sanctions removal and so on. And that's been going on to this day, right? They've continued this black box agreement. So Iran is not destroying the footage. It's still there, but the IAEA can't look at it yet. It's just put aside. It's a black box thing. So there you go. But yeah, that's you know. Again, I could go on hours about this. I already have, but yeah, it's one of the most dishonest fields in journalism. This Iran nuclear deal coverage. It's really so bad. It's horrendous. So, guys, last plug before I go. If you want to support the show, if you want to support independent media, please consider becoming a member on Patreon. Again, I don't believe in paywalls. Everything is free. This is just a way to support the channel. And you can do that for $2 a month, $5, anything you like. Doesn't matter. And you can start and stop whenever you like. I appreciate everything from you guys. I really do. And if you want, you can also send a tip or a donation on Venmo or CashApp or PayPal. Just scan the code with your camera. And you can send a note, which I'll read out, or a question. If you want me to answer it, I will happily do that. And I'm very grateful for all your support, you know, throughout last year and this year, and hopefully beyond. So thank you for that. And, you know, for those of you who can't chip in, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm glad even when people comment, when they drop by in the live stream, when they share their videos, this is, you know, I'm more than happy to see that. Nalze, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. I hope I am. Thank you for the donation. They say, if you can cover the indigenous movements in the US and Canada, the puppet tribal governments are literally signing off our water rights. So I did a bit of coverage just a few months now. It's a few months after, about the schools, right? In Canada, those boarding schools. They had them in the US as well. But this is something where I need to definitely step up the coverage. And I'd be happy to do that. I want to show you guys something. Give me a second. I'll pull this up for you. I'm trying to look through my bookmarks. One sec. Yeah, here we go. You can see here, this is... this is in Canada. Can you see that on the screen? So basically, what's happening? This is a movement, right? They're trying to stop this coastal gas link pipeline in Canada, and you know, it's absolutely crazy. The videos that they post, they show you just it's shocking to me, because I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm just disgusted by it. You know, you literally have, you know, the state, colonizers, let's call it what it is, colonizers showing up with weapons and trying to force the natives to hand over their land so they can put a pipeline through it. It's absolutely disgusting. And this is, you know, people think that that's some kind of old thing. This is like 2 centuries. It's still happening right now today. I'm trying to scroll down to show you one of those videos that I had bookmarked. It's, you know, it's absolutely incredible. But this is, of course, just... yeah, I think this is the video. Hold on. Yeah, this is one image from it. You know, just coming with weapons, trying to like stop them from protesting and standing their ground. It's really insane. You know, they just coming on behalf of the corporations, really. You know. You'll have to forgive me. I can't find the video right now, but Yeah, the RCMP is the Royal Canadian Mountain Police, I think it was. Basically, they're sending them on behalf of the corporations, trying to destroy their land, take it. I mean, it's really, really disgusting. So, I mean, shout out to them. They're really fighting for survival. And it really shows you at who the armed forces serve, right? You know, this is all at the behest of corporations, white corporations, European, colonizers coming here, stealing indigenous native land and trying to make money. I mean, it's that stuff has not disappeared. That's still happening, not just in America, but worldwide. People need to get that. So, give me a second. I'm switching back to the comments over here. Marvin says, thanks, RM, for the time, insight, knowledge, and knowledge into the Middle East. Any news on Christian persecution in Palestine? I know it exists, never makes the news. Well, this is a very interesting topic. I was talking about Christian persecution in general just earlier when I was filming the episode, because very soon is the anniversary of Soleimani's killing. I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but, he had a lot to do with protecting Christians in the Middle East. Now, in Palestine specifically, Jesus was a Palestinian, right? Let's get that straight. Jesus was a Palestinian, and it's Christmas, so this is a very relevant topic. And, that's something they try to erase, of course. They try to paint Jesus as some white man, blonde hair, blue eyes, and, it's not real. It's a perversion. It's some kind of distortion of who he was, right? And this is something that goes back centuries, of course, right? It's not nothing new, but it's so funny in a way, because even in the Middle East, you can go to Syria, and you'll see like pictures of Jesus, but it's like the Europeanized, the Westernized version of Jesus, but it's in Syria, right? Like it's become so normal. You see it everywhere. It's incredible in a way, really, and not through any ill intent, of course. It's just how you'll find a lot of the posters and paintings and replicas and so on. They're just made that way now. It's it's just commercialized in that way. Jesus is just like a white person now, essentially, and it's really funny in a way how it's even in the Middle East like that now because of the Western influence. And in Palestine, I can assure you right now, no one is really celebrating Christmas in peace, right? Whether you're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian, if you're Palestinian, I want to give you an example. Again, it's not particular to Christians, but just Palestinian Muslims, for example, during Ramadan, during the holy month when they were fasting just this summer, they couldn't even sit. They couldn't even sit at Damascus Gate. Every day, you had people sitting, just minding their own business, breaking the fast with their family, and then the Israeli occupation, they just come in and they just, hit them, harass them, make them go home. Like, you can't sit in a public place. What does that remind you of? You can't sit in a public place. Literally just sit down and eat something just to exist because of your ethnicity or your religion. Disgusting, right? And they call this the only democracy in the Middle East. This is occupation, This is what it's like living under military occupation. So that's one way how Palestinian Muslims celebrated their Ramadan, being harassed by the Israelis. And for Christians, I suspect it's no different. You have a lot of these nut jobs, evangelical Christians like Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence. I don't know what fucking planet these people come from, but they call themselves Christian Zionists or whatever. There's nothing Christian about being a Zionist. The way Palestinians are treated by the Israelis. There's nothing Christian about that. So this is all just some bullshit label they hide behind, That's what it is. But yeah, this is definitely an important topic: persecution of Christians in Palestine. I want to delve deeper into that, and do something dedicated about that. Yeah. You know, another thing that I can tell you, which just came to mind, what the Israelis were doing, they were stopping Christians from doing pilgrimage in Palestine. Also, a few months ago, let me pull that up for you, because we covered it on the channel, I believe, when I was talking about, you remember in May when the war in Gaza started, because that was happening at the same time as the protests at Damascus Gate and so on. Let me just pull that up for you so I can show it to you. This is a problem. I have 15 million bookmarks. So I mean, this is just one article that just came up with me right now. Give me a second. So this is from the Jerusalem Post, right? And this is, as I told you, from this May, the period that I was just referring to. And you can see here that the Israelis were putting up checkpoints and using COVID to allegedly, you know, allegedly using COVID to stop Christians from you know, celebrating their holidays. And let me scroll down over here. So the Palestinian Wafa news agency said that the police physically assaulted worshippers and obstructed access to the church without detailing specific incidents. Right? 2 young people were arrested while on their way to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, with the Palestinian Safa news agency reporting that they had raised Palestinian flags, which is illegal in Jerusalem. I mean, what a fucking sentence, honestly. What a sentence. It's illegal to raise a Palestinian flag in Jerusalem. Motherfucker. Like, look at that. You get arrested for, I mean, Christ. One member of the Christian community told Safa that hundreds of people were prevented from reaching the church and were beaten and pushed, claiming that it appeared almost empty. Right? So this is one thing that immediately I remembered, that immediately came to mind when I remembered what we were talking about. And I should delve deeper into it, but I just wanted to mention it to you since I remembered it from a few months back, and it pertains to your question. But yeah, I mean, raising a Palestinian flag is illegal in Jerusalem. What a sentence. What a sentence, honestly. So, you know, that's very, very sad to talk about on Christmas. But in any case, I just want to tell you guys one thing. Whatever you're doing for for Christmas or New Year or whatever, I wish you guys all the best. And I'm grateful for the community we've built, and I'm grateful for your support. I'm happy you guys are here hanging out with me. And you know, I'm always grateful every day for how far we've come, especially in so little time. I'm always grateful for that. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys get to see your family and your friends, and wish you all the best for Christmas, for the holidays, for the New Year, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. If you'll allow the silence, I'll just go through some more of your comments. I just like reading them. So Neil says he should have worn a wig in court. I think you're referring to Assange, right? So he should have worn a wig in court. The judges should have worn stripes jumpers. Thank you guys. You're very kind. I'm reading all your comments. You're very kind. Echo is asking for Socks. Well, Socks is on leave. It's already on Christmas leave. You guys are very kind. I wish you guys happy holidays as well and Merry Christmas. And Shadow Dissector says toasting Socks. Toast to you guys as well. So I just have one last question. I know I bore you guys with this, but how did you find the stream? Was it did you open YouTube and you saw it, or you got a notification from YouTube or an email? I'm trying to find out what works. I try everything when we go live. So I hope I can reach you, given how much YouTube. Well, you know what YouTube does. But anyway. Echo says notification. Miguel says notification as well. Cinema says email. Neil says insomnia. Well, that's good. No, that's not good. Inessa says on my feed. Roxanne says Merry Christmas, Richard from Los Angeles. Merry Christmas to you as well. That's great. I love when people say where they're tuning in from. Brian and Adir say YouTube showed it on their sidebar. Marvin says, is Socks trained to sense Zionists and Mossad agents nearby? Working on it. Human says got a notification. Marvin says notification. That's good. Most of you said notification. I'm very glad. I'm very glad to hear that. Okay. Well, that's great. Make sure you've liked the video. I see we have more likes than viewers, which I don't know how to feel about that, but you know, that can't be bad. And Fred says got an email from the newsletter. That's very good as well. All right, guys. Well, I won't bore you any further. I'll just end by saying thank you for tuning in, and I hope you get to watch the interviews that we talked about, the other videos, and again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and I'm very grateful for your support. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.